Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire here, waiting for my good friend John Ryan to come in and talk some gambling on this show for today. When John comes in, I'll bring him in. In the meantime, I'll get you started on a few prop bets that I'm looking at this weekend. So, first of all, I was very happy that we cashed in the Gabriel Davis one. He had over 58 and a half yards. He had 41 in the mid-second quarter, and I thought that would be an easy sail through. But then the game got to a point where they didn't have to throw as much. They were playing with a bit of a lead. He got the long pass late, went up to 88 yards. So, very happy with that. The only other one I bet was the Rams and Bills under the 52 number. That worked out really well. So far, so good. We're off to a good start. Here are the prop bets that I like this week. And of course, I'll tell you why. The first one we're going to go with is Darren Waller under 48 and a half yards. Now, I'm not necessarily buying into the fact that he had a hamstring injury. I think it may have been more of a hold-in contract-related thing. Although it was interesting, he did come back for one practice and then was out for weeks again afterwards. Not really sure what to make of that. But what I do know is this. J.C. Jackson, the cornerback, doubtful to play. But regardless, I think Davante Adams is going to be very, very freed up in this game. I'm not concerned about any of the other corners. J.C. Jackson is one that could have potentially slowed Adams a bit. But that said, Derwin James, the great safety, and I know somebody had made a comment that, well, Derwin James will cover Davante Adams. And seriously, you don't typically put safeties on the best receivers in the league. They'll probably bracket Adams. They'll try that. But Derwin James, I want you to think back to last year down the stretch when Kansas City played the Chargers on a Thursday night. We looked at the stat line and Travis Kelce went off. Probably like 150 yards, but he had like nothing through the middle of the third quarter. Derwin James got hurt, left the game, and then all of a sudden in regulation and overtime, Kelce went bananas. Well, Derwin James is a legit shutdown player, and he doesn't need any help. And obviously, dealing with Kelce and Waller, they're two different players. I personally think he matches up better with Waller than Kelce anyway, because there's less of the physical aspect that Kelce can potentially bring. He just has to basically defend him, and he's not going to give any windows to Derek Carr, and Carr is going to have such an easier time just getting the ball to Davante Adams, maybe even checking down the running backs, Hunter Renfrow. I just think Waller is going to be shadowed enough where there's not going to be windows and open looks and not much yardage after the catch. The shell that and defense that we're going to see from the Chargers, that's definitely going to limit that. And anyway, the next prop I like, Alvin Kamara over 59 and a half rushing yards. And the reason I like him was we know last year when he played, he was seeing over 18 carries a game. He had 240 carries, and I believe in 13 games. He was very, very busy on the ground. But really, Mark Ingram's 32 years old. Every year he's going to get a little bit worse. It's going to be Kamara's backfield. They're playing Atlanta, who's a bad run defense to start, but they are down 3 of their front 7 who are on injured reserve recently placed. So this bad run defense is going to be without 2 defensive linemen and Deion Jones. And I know Deion Jones may not be the player he was, but regardless, they're backing up them. And so now the Saints could play with the lead here. I expect Kamara to run. I don't think Jameis Winston is going to be the guy they're going to let carry this team. I think even Sean Payton had it going this way last year. They were really holding Winston's pass attempts down unless they were trailing and they had to throw. And I don't see a scenario where they're really going to be much behind this Atlanta Falcons offense. So I think that we're in really, really good shape here. So I think Kamara is going to see upwards of 18 to 22 carries, but I think he's going to have a lot of room to run. And I know that the Saints line isn't what it was, but regardless, I still think they're good enough on the interior, and Kamara should have a couple of big runs and get things going there. And then the third prop I like, and if you've seen some of my other videos like on TikTok or Instagram, you may have heard this already, but I do love Elijah Mitchell over 65 yards against the Bears. And the reason that I like that play is it's really the presence of Trey Lance. Last year when Mitchell had Jimmy Garoppolo under center, Jimmy Garoppolo was obviously a stationary quarterback. When opposing defenses were locking in on the 49ers run game, the linebackers could basically lean forward, aggressively attack the hole, and often Mitchell will be shut down to short yardage on some carries. Well, with Trey Lance in there, with his ability to tuck the ball, run around the backside, defenses are going to be terrified of that. And the linebackers are going to be more on their heels and on their toes, which they were last year. And that's going to give Mitchell those moments of hesitation that he's going to be able to turn those 4 and 5 yard runs into 8 to 12 yard runs with a lot more consistency. And they're playing a Bears defense that is, first of all, they're going to a new defensive scheme. They have 4 new players in their front 7, including both outside linebackers. So this is a situation where the 49ers are going to come in. George Kittle may not play here, but I know he's a great blocker, and that's part of it. But regardless, with Lance in there, that mobility is going to flip the script in the running game. And I really think that we're going to see Elijah Mitchell with a big game. He only needs 18 carries here. If he gets that, he's going to sail over that 65-yard mark. So even if they get a lead late and they bring Jeff Wilson, I don't think they have any issues there. All right, John Ryan was unable to make it. I was waiting for John to come in, but I don't see him. So we are going to talk about the questions in the hopper here. Michael Thomas, thoughts on him? Well, we don't know yet, right? He's been dealing with injuries throughout camp. We're not sure what his level of effectiveness is. As I mentioned with the Alvin Kamara prop, I really don't know how much we are going to see them throw the ball. And now they have Chris Olave, they have Jarvis Landry. Jameis Winston has no allegiance to Michael Thomas. That was really a Drew Brees thing. And I know Michael Thomas was one of the absolute best receivers in the game, but we don't know where he's at now. He's hardly played in the last 2 years. Has he had a drop off? There's a lot of variables here. So I think he gets targets. Yeah, I think so. I think that works out well. But that's kind of it on Michael Thomas. I just really don't know where to go. And crack shot, Jordan Mason will take over. I will tell you this. Kyle Shanahan gushed about Elijah Mitchell last year, and he doesn't usually do that. Elijah Mitchell is so perfect for that running scheme. In that running scheme, what you basically have to do is when you start the run, you got to plant your foot and you got to cut back to a hole that is not there yet. And then you have to trust that the hole will emerge when you get there. And that's what Shanahan loved about Mitchell. It was that ability to trust instinctual running and to make those cuts. And he does that. And I think this year, he had the injuries, right? Mitchell missed 6 games with 3 different injuries. As I said early in my analysis, I really believe because the linebackers were able to really stuff up the middle, they were actually have extra linebackers leaning forward. Mitchell's taking a lot of big hits. The Trey Lance personality on the field with his ability and explosiveness, defenses are going to be on their heels. And I think it's far less big hits that Mitchell's taking. Mitchell's going to be able to have hits more from safeties than from linebackers this year. And so I think his ability to stay healthy might be increased. And Mitchell self-reported, don't know if this is true, that he put some extra weight on to hold up the durability. And so that, if that's the case, that could help him as well. But I really think having Trey Lance is going to give him more ability to avoid hits, the magnitude he was taking. Shanahan against, and Jeff Wilson, we'll talk about him. Jeff Wilson was terrible last year, but Kyle Shanahan came out and said he was proud of Wilson because Wilson played on guts last year. And basically he was not fully back from that ACL he suffered the prior year. And so, but Shanahan loves Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson was productive and healthy, and he said that Wilson's back to where he was right now. So I do believe Wilson is the number 2 here, and he's done enough when healthy to show that he can hold that role. Jordan Mason may become a thing. We know running backs get hurt in this one-cut system because, again, with the violent ferocity, you've got to use that cutback run. It definitely can create issues. All right, and then Johnny Not Bravo, Godwin or Penny. Well, here's what I want to tell you, because Sunday night game, I don't know if Adam Schefter will break overnight Monday and Tuesday, whether Godwin's playing, but Godwin right now seems to be a true game time decision. If you have both of those players and if you can flex one of them, I would put Penny. I'd put Penny in the flex, and then honestly, Penny plays Monday night, Godwin plays Sunday, so I love Penny's matchup because I don't think Ken Walker's going to play. But on Sunday, you got Godwin. If you want Godwin, at least you start Penny in the flex. And then if Godwin's active and you want to use him, then you can go ahead. I don't know if it's one of those things we're going to see a diminished snap share. And that's the other thing that we don't know. He's clearly not 100% because they're talking about game time decision. But if he plays, does he get his full workload? Or is it one of those they're going to acclimate him in? Depending on your roster construct and what you have in terms of bench options, I think that has to make your decision quite a bit. But I think Penny's a great play this week because, look, like I said, Ken Walker's probably out. Not that I was worried anyway, but Penny is the real deal in terms of talent. And so I could totally see him having a big game. And Pete Carroll's going to want to run the ball a lot here. He always does, right? But I think he doesn't want Russell Wilson in a shootout. That's what he doesn't want. So anyway, that's kind of how I would look at that. If you have another player, another receiver on either that Sunday night game, like Russell Gage, or in a Monday night game that you could sub out for Godwin, then you could look at it that way. That's just something to think about. All right. And then, John, you have Jamar Chase and Deontay Johnson, your main receiver. So yeah, you're fine there. You're fine. No reason to push Godwin over either of them at this point. We'll see what Deontay Johnson is with Mitch Trubisky, but nonetheless, he's healthy enough to play. They say expected fully to play. His injury was apparently minor, so he's going to be on the field, no issue there. So yeah, I think you roll with them, and I think you give Godwin a week. Because maybe if it's limited snap share and they're acclimating him in, you don't want to take that risk if you don't have to. Can he score 25 fantasy points? Sure. I think the probability is going to be low because, again, I don't think he's quite 100%. You're welcome, Johnny. All right. Any other questions here? Do not see any bets I'm looking at this week. On the 49ers attack, I do like the 49ers -7 against the Bears. I think that's a great play. And the reason is the Bears, again, on defense, a lot of new faces, have a new corner, a new safety, 4 new bodies in the front 7. The 49ers should be able to attack them consistently. On offense, the Bears are going to really struggle with that front 7 of the 49ers. And I know they're getting Fields on the move and rolling them out, but realistically, that offensive line with 4 new starters, I count Tevin Jenkins' new line. He's a new starter. He's playing guard. So I'm very concerned that Justin Fields is really going to have a rough go of it here against that front 7. So I think the 49ers smash the Bears. I don't know too many scenarios the Bears cover this. I also like the Eagles -5 over the Lions. I mean, I know the Eagles beat them 44-6 last year. And the Lions are a better team this year. From the last year, I like the Lions, but the Eagles, honestly, and I know they did the dream team thing before, they have 3 legit corners. They got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was a slot corner, who's going to play safety. He has those tendencies and great coverage in the middle of the field. And, with those 4 coverage guys, the pass rush can get home even against a good offensive line. And I think overall with the Eagles, they're playing in Lions defense. They added Aiden Hutchinson. I get it, but that defense is still bad. This is an offense that should get humming in week 1. I think this is a pretty strong play for the Eagles. And then the last one I do like the Saints -5.5 against the Falcons. Falcons are getting a lot of credit for the wins they had last year, but they had an easy schedule. And that's not the case here. And I know the Saints are a little beleaguered on their offensive line, but I still think defensively, the Saints have so much talent that'll make the Falcons offense that's really a struggle. Their line's a struggle, and Marcus Mariota is going to probably struggle here. And I just think that Alvin Kamara gets the team on his back. They're able to move the ball very effectively. I think with 3 legitimate receivers too, the defenses are going to be a little bit nervous to stack the box, but the Falcons are without 3 of their front 7 players on defense. So that's a bad defense, missing 3 starters all on injured reserve. All right, let's see what else we got here. Crack shot. Patriots are going to a Shanahan-like offense this year. Stevenson fits that system. So you know what? Honestly, I'd like to say I know what they're doing, but I think they're going to be defined over time. I think the Patriots are going to figure out what they have. I think it's going to take them some time. They have no fullbacks on the roster. So that's interesting. The Shanahan system would always have that fullback. Belichick's always carried multiple fullbacks. None this year. They only have 2 tight ends on the roster, unless they made a small roster move that I wasn't aware of, but they pared down to 2. So to me, this is an 11 personnel team. This is a 3 receiver set team because they don't have the bodies on the roster to play the Shanahan type offense where they're getting multiple in the heavy personnel packages. And with Jonnu Smith's performance last year, I know that they have him because they're paying him, but unless they figured out a new way to use him, that's a little bit problematic. So we'll see what happens there. Mac Jones is good in play action. And I think they will run play action out of 11 personnel. You could run play action out of shotgun too. And Ramondre Stevenson is a very good receiver. He's a very strong runner. And I do think he's going to be an excellent fantasy option this year. And then Johnny Not Bravo, PPR, your running backs are Henry, Etienne, Penny, Gordon, and Kareem Hunt. Do they immediately trade for a 2-3? Well, you have Henry, you're betting on him to be a lead guy, and he should be, right? You're going to bet that he's not going to get hurt, and that's what we do. We make our stances. We don't, predict injury. We can't. Henry got hurt 1 year. Maybe he's fine. Maybe it was a fluke injury. So if he's still Derrick Henry, you're good there. Look, if you got ETN and Penny, ETN you paid a pretty good draft pick for. until we see, there's no reason to think he's not going to be a strong fantasy option. And Rashad Penny, it's all about injury, right? And that's the thing. When he's on the field, he's an excellent player. Been since his rookie year. We just didn't see him much. And then he had that stretch of 5 games last year, and 4 was 135 yards and a touchdown or more. So he's amazing. And then, Kareem Hunt's going to be a factor. So I don't think you really need to go any further than that. I mean, if you're really stacked at receiver and you want to deal a receiver and maybe take one of those running backs and package off and upgrade, I could see that. I could totally see that. All right, looks like we're good on questions. I gave you guys some prop bets. I gave you guys some ATS bets. Good luck in weekend. I'll be on the RotoWire live stream Sunday, 2 hours before the main kickoff games. I'll answer your questions, give you the what's and the whys. Also, go to rotowire.com/try. 2 days free behind the paywall. See everything we have. Man, if you like the analysis here, you'll get so much more of it by going to the RotoWire site. So welcome to the team. If you want to join us, it's free. No credit card needed. So come on over. Johnny Bravo, you're welcome, man. Appreciate that. Everybody have a wonderful day and best of luck to all of you.